I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body. And that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Hey guys, we're super excited to be here at the LA Fit Expo. It's our third year in a row. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be launching a tasty pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs. And we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
If you want to build a massive chest, you have to stop bench pressing right now.
Welcome to Heinz Senior's Coaching App. Get access to the P3AK High Intensity Training ebook and its exclusive video tutorials. Commit with Heinz's coaching right now and be provided with a year of meal plans, training programs, and more. www.p3akday.com. There is no room for the littles.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions, diet, training, supplementation, IFBB, pros, news, whatever's on your mind, it is all on the tables. We now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, we will not be spoiling Cobra Kai Season 4. We just had a 20-minute pre-show conversation about it. I know many of our audience members have not yet binged on it like you and I did over this past weekend, but we will talk about the 60-day transformation challenge held by our friends at Titan Medical. 60-day transformation contest. You can win 6 months free HRT. They will be selecting one male, one female winner for the best overall transformation.
You know, Sid, I don't think I've ever seen a contest where they gave away free HRT anywhere. So that's a pretty good deal. I mean, if I was in the market for getting HRT, and it's obviously it's not cheap. It's great to have, you know, a real prescription and everything, and be a patient and, you know, have a doctor prescribing things. And that's why we send people to Titan Medical Center, because they're great like that, and they do telemedicine, and they have vitamin and treatments. And, you know, I'm big on glutathione and all their Triimmune products that they have there for immune enhancement. But here's an opportunity. Get yourself in the best shape of your life and win free hormone replacement. And if you don't even do free hormone replacement, they'll give you other stuff. So it's a great contest. But I think today is the last day to sign up, right? So I think people better get over there and register. So go over to TitanMedicalCenter.com and check it out. You can check out their Instagram. We just had up on the screen as well.
Yeah, we have it as well reposted on our Instagram, so you can go check it out there, or on Titan Medical's Instagram, or on their website. Let's go to the questions. Actually, before we get to the questions, Dave, really cool conversation you and I were having. So obviously, the Arnold Clash is going to be on the weekend of March 5th. The following weekend is the Boston Pro. Now, for those that don't know, behind the scenes of the Boston Pro, you have Jay Cutler and you have Steve Weinberger. This is turning out to be quite the bonanza of a show. It was supposed to be last year as well, obviously postponed because of the pandemic. So this is going to be their first big rollout for the Boston Pro. I mean, they're getting celebrities. They're going to have a performance by Akon.
Really?
They're pulling out all the stops. And then, you know, on top of that, we haven't posted it yet. We did receive this. I was just kind of waiting to see once they posted it on their social media. Yeah. They're going to be giving away their car. And I mean, this is going to be one of those, this could be the next big show, the Boston Pro.
Yeah. Well, you know, they were supposed to hold it last year, but they got shut down because of COVID. And then Jay Cutler texted me the promotion for this Maverick they're giving away. And when Tyler saw that Maverick, he decided that he was going to enter the show too. So Tyler will be entering the Boston Pro. I don't know what division yet. He hasn't decided, but he might do wellness. He's been working on his squats because he wants to win that Maverick truck. Didn't you say it's like 40 miles to the gallon?
Over 40 miles to the gallon.
How can you go wrong with a 40 mile per gallon truck? Yeah, it's pretty good. Very, very earthy and
Have your wellness
energy.
cake and eat it too.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, I mean, they're giving away obviously prize money as well, Olympia qualification, but the truck, the Maverick, is going to be up for grabs. Where's that picture? Put that picture up there, Tyler. It's great stuff. And, I love when I see Steve Weinberg always gave away the ring, for the New York Pro winner. But I think a truck is more functional than a ring. Ring is cool to wear and everything like that, but the truck, man. I remember Ronnie Coleman did that Arnold Classic in 2001 just because he wanted to win the Hummer. So that's a really nice looking truck and a good first place prize. I'm sure some very happy bodybuilders going to drive away with that thing. No pun intended.
No, but if you haven't already checked out, they have their own Instagram account for the Boston Pro. They're getting local Boston area celebrities, local Boston area professional athletes involved in promoting the show. So it's going to be big. It's good to see. Again, coming from the world that I come from, I guess the quote unquote mainstream sports world, I love to see this kind of promotion. It adds some juice. It adds some excitement for the fans, for the athletes. Entices athletes who might be on the fence.
That's Jay Cutler's hometown too. Don't forget Boston.
Exactly right, 100%. So obviously, our good friend, the Boston Mass, Jose Raymond, is going to be there as well. So it's going to be exciting. So again, you had the Arnold Classic, you had the Boston Pro, 2 back-to-back big weekends. But for the Boston Pro, it's going to be its inaugural debut. So should be very exciting. So keep it locked to that. We will post that picture of the truck they're going to be giving away shortly. But again, they have their own Instagram if you want more updates, more information, or if you're a competitor and you want to compete. Let's go to the questions. The first 2 questions, of course, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question, Dave, can you give an overview of what health and muscle building supplements you suggest? I've heard many recommendations from, but not an overall setup. So, generally we talk about health supplements, especially when it comes to the app, but muscle building supplements that you recommend.
I think it's important to understand that when we say muscle building supplements, we're not talking about anabolics here. We're talking about legal supplements. This person wants to know a list of what he should take. And you got to remember that the vitamins, minerals, essential fats, okay, even the joint, repair products, ingredients, they're like glucosamine and MSM. These are all muscle building products. And why are they muscle building products? Because all the chemical reactions in our body run on vitamins and minerals and trace metals. So if you don't have enough of those, you can't engage in protein synthesis at the optimal rate, especially if you're training really hard and you're building a lot of muscle. Likewise, if you don't take in enough essential fatty acids, you're going to be deficient, and then you're not going to repair muscle cell membranes properly. So that's also going to inhibit the ability to grow. Likewise, if you don't give your body the raw materials it needs to repair joint connective tissue, you're not going to reinforce those as well, which is going to lead you more prone to injury. So in terms of anabolic, muscle building supplements, those are your cores right there. If you look at my nutrition line, that's how they were built. It was built around these core essentials you need: V-mineralize, omega-lyze, arthrolyze. Obviously, vitamin D3, we've been talking about that probably for the last 10 years. I've been mentioning you need that. Now we're finding that in COVID, people who are getting really sick with COVID are very, very low in vitamin D, which means that the COVID is using up the vitamin D3 much quicker. Once again, we know vitamin D3 is integral to the immune system, so you need to be taking supplemental form of that. Now, my V-Mineralize has 2,000 units in it, but I'm recommending people, and I've been saying this also for years, take at least 7,000 units a day. So you want to add 5,000 units to that. A lot of people don't realize, if you look at the vitamin D3 molecule, it's a steroidal, backbone. So in essence, it's a steroid, if you want to look at it from that perspective. Vitamin D3 is a steroidal precursor, and so it shouldn't really surprise anyone that it has anabolic properties to it. Having said that, now there are performance, improving supplements out there that also will help with the muscle building process, like creatine. You want to look for a micronized creatine, of course, so that it mixes well and it becomes, it has better solubility, so you absorb it better. Some of the pre-workouts can act as anabolic supplements in the sense that they help you train harder, longer, because of the endurance component of that. Get a better pump, which means you can feel the muscles contract a little better. Mental focus, obviously, you might put more intensity into your workouts. So those are like what I call the luxury items, but really your core muscle building, if you want, and quote health products are your vitamins, minerals, trace metals, essential fatty acids, and joint repair. And that should be the priority. And then of course you want to detoxify your body, and that's why a fiber supplement is necessary. And I'll repeat these over and over and over, no matter how many times I get these same questions. These are the cores. If you're taking these core essentials with vitamin D3, of course, then you're going to be basically maximizing what you're doing, assuming you're eating enough protein, okay, you're training hard enough, and you're resting enough, now you've optimized everything. Anything on top of that, you throw anabolics, you throw growth hormone on top of that, you're going to grow better, but you need those basic cores, otherwise you can't build and repair muscle.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. For someone with binge eating issues following your ketogenic diet, do you recommend any modifications to the weekly cheat meal if it triggers a binge?
Why do people binge? I think this is important to understand this. And I've been dieting people for I hate to admit how long I've been doing this, but probably going on 30 years now. In a formal sense, maybe for 20 years, because I coached people for free for 10 years. The people would just come up to my house and I would do their diets for them. And I've noticed a lot of different patterns developing. And cheating, or binge eating usually occurs when people build up hunger. Why do they build up hunger? They're missing meals. Okay, so if I put someone on 6 meals a day and they are only eating 4 because they think they're going to lose weight faster, that means there's a big gap during the day, 1 or 2 big gaps where they're missing, they're not eating and their bodies are building up hunger. Eventually that built up hunger over the course of a couple of days. Sometimes it's less for certain people. Some people have better willpower. Eventually you will cheat and binge because your body is just not getting enough of what it needs. So people think there are shortcuts to losing weight and they skip meals or miss meals purposely or sleep through, meal 1, and then they wonder why they cheat and binge, okay? A cheat meal doesn't trigger binging. A cheat meal, only does that if and here's another mistake people make. All right, Saturday night's my cheat meal, so I just won't eat all day Saturday. So I don't feel like I'm gonna, gain any weight. That's the dumbest way. That's not a cheat meal. Matter of fact, you might even be eating less food if you only have a cheat meal and you don't eat the rest of the day. But the next day you're going to cheat again because you still haven't satiated that need that your body has for enough protein and fats and all the other and carbs. So you have to have a regimen and stick to it. That's what leads to binge eating. Like I help a bunch of people who have tremendous weight loss, and when they're following the program, they're not hungry and they're losing. When they start missing, going off the deep end, that's when binging happens. Now, some people are emotional eaters too. They get upset, they break up with a boyfriend or girlfriend, and then they wind up overeating. I mean, that you can't help that. That's just maybe part of their nature. But by and far, most people have binge behavior because of cheat meals because they're missing meals or they're doing too much or whatever the case may be. They have other psychological issues going on. Don't miss meals. If you have a coach and they have a plan for you, stick to the plan. Don't add your own insights, because you know what? If you were that brilliant and you had such great insights into how to diet and lose weight, you wouldn't need a coach. You need a coach because when you're dieting yourself, your thought processes or your logic that you've come up with as to whether you should eat this or not eat this is not good. Your instincts are off. Coaches are looking at it from a non-emotional point of view because they're removed from you. They don't live with you. They don't have to go through all your dramas. So they can give you a that's smart and intelligent and works. So stick with listen to your coach.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not already following us on Instagram, the handle is official_RxMuscle. If you're watching us for the first time on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss any of our show segments or updates. As always, brand new episodes of Heavy Muscle Radio, and then, of course, last night's episode of After Hours podcast on the channel right now. So, again, if you haven't done so, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below. That helps. And as always, we appreciate all of your support all year round. Let's go to Pantelis Dermatzakis. So he actually added a second part of this relating to Dexter Jackson as well. But the question is, watching Phil Heath train, looks like he never pushes it to the limit. It almost seems easy. Do you think he got away with it due to his genetics, or maybe training lower than 100% intensity keeps you more fresh look while keeping your body healthier? So you say he referenced Phil Heath, but then later on he also adds Dexter Jackson to that question as well.
Well, your body only knows what it feels. Sometimes people could lift weights that maybe are not Ronnie Coleman crazy weights and make that weight feel very difficult to their body because they have a very good mind-muscle connection. When I first got started in lifting, it bothered me that I would see these guys come into the gym and maybe they haven't even trained that long, but I just could tell, I was watching them, and I could tell that they have a good connection to the weight. They had a good feel for the exercise, something that I didn't have. And I just felt like it was because I wasn't big enough. And there was a certain degree of that, but it's the way some people's joints are put together and how the attachments. I had always had a long arm and a long leg, and it felt like I had to like really be creative to be able to feel the muscle properly. I had to lift really heavy, and I had to use really good form with full range of motion, whereas other guys can get away with other stuff because they just had a better feel for the muscle. And I think that's what Phil has. I think Vince Taylor fits into that. Dexter Jackson. Number one, they have obviously great genetics for building muscle. Okay, whether that means they have less myostatin than everyone else, I don't know. That's my theory. But because of that, they just grow more easily. But having said that, you still have to challenge the muscle. A muscle's not going to grow if it doesn't feel challenged, and if it's not breaking down and feeling that it needs to build itself up bigger to support whatever stress you're putting on it. So obviously Phil and Dexter and guys like that, they have a way of creating intensity in what they're doing, even though and still making it look easy. Okay, it's like a guy on stage. Some guys pose on stage, they look effortless. Other guys look like it's a nightmare for them to get up there and pose. It happens to just be how connected a person is to their body. And some people have great body awareness. That's why they're great dancers. Other people have terrible body awareness. A real anomaly in the bodybuilding world was Paul Dillette, because Paul Dillette was huge. He lifted light weights. He had terrible body awareness because he couldn't pose for anything, and it wasn't because he didn't want to practice. Although I'm sure if he practiced, he would have been better. But he just there was a disconnect there. But his body wanted to build muscle, and we don't know why. That's why it's not a good idea to ask genetic freaks what they did to achieve their success, because a lot of times they achieved success despite themselves because they were just so genetically blessed. It's always good to find a guy who was a hard gainer or a guy who had to work really hard to get where he was at. Ask him what he did, and you'll probably get a much more accurate answer that's going to help you really achieve something. And I think that's why people like to listen to my advice, because I was not a genetically gifted athlete, in terms of structure, and just things didn't come easy to me. I just worked really hard for it, used the science behind it, and was able to achieve something great, using my brain, so to speak, and applying, dogged determination and not giving up. And so I think that's why sometimes, once again, people like myself are better teachers, because we can kind of break down the process of how he did it. John Meadows was another great example of that.
Bodybuilding and wrestling, good friend of the show. Is it necessary to have beef or fish in your diet on or off season? Chicken, egg whites, tuna, and whey isolate are pretty much my main source of protein. I use salmon mostly for the fats.
Look, I always tell people, if you don't like a certain food, don't eat it. I have people in certain parts of the world where their fish is, especially in India, fish is just not available that much to people there. It's very expensive. They have a lot more access to chicken, and so that's what we use, chicken and eggs mostly. Other parts of the world, it's all fish. That's what they got. They don't have a lot of red meat. It's not a good area for red meat, and so I have them eating a lot of fish, and eggs. But it doesn't matter. As long as you're using animal sources of protein, you will grow. Ideally, as a bodybuilder, I would like to use a variety of everything. When I was competing, I was using fatty fishes like salmon and swordfish. I was using red meat a little bit once or twice a day. I was using chicken breast. Obviously, I was using eggs. I was using, whey protein powders and whatever was available at the time. So I varied it. I felt like a variety was better than trying to eat the same thing every single meal. But it really doesn't matter. As long as you're getting enough protein in, and you're getting enough of the essential fats in, and you're eating enough carbs to fuel your workouts and fuel what you're doing, you're gonna grow and get results. That's all there is to it. I just think sometimes varying up the protein sources gives your body a slightly different amino acid profile, and they can kind of complement each other. All right, well, maybe the chicken has more of these amino acids, and fish has more of these, and then red meat has more of these. So if you have a little of each, you kind of balance and give yourself a better ratio of all the amino acids at the end of the day. But the bottom line is bodybuilders eat so much protein anyway that it probably doesn't matter,
A drop in from Lee Priest. Dave, can you tell me how to get what little brain cells I had left back after reading some of the questions?
I think it's a hopeless exercise in futility, to be honest with you, Lee. But there are ways to regenerate brain cells theoretically. And I always tell people, the best way to I guess have good mental function is to not let your mental function deteriorate. And essential fatty acids are really important for brain function. If you look at the brain and all the nerves in your body, they're surrounded by what we call a myelin sheath. It's basically a fatty sheath, all the cells. And that's where the signals get conducted through that myelin sheath. If that breaks down, which happens in multiple sclerosis, in ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, your body can't communicate with itself. So including the brain. So if you want your brain to function, you got to eat, enough fats, and you have to eat your essential fatty acids. Once again, I mentioned that with regard to building muscle, but it's also the nervous system as well. Remember, the nervous system innervates the muscles and tells the muscles what to do. So it's a holistic thing. You can't just look at one aspect. The good thing is that if you're eating enough fat in your diet for building muscle, it's going to take care of your nervous system as well.
It's a question about, here we go, from Bilal Hamide. What exercise do you recommend to build the outer quads besides squatting?
I liked hack squats. I never felt leg press really that much in my legs, in my quads rather. Although I like the straight on leg press. I felt like the horizontal leg press worked really well for quad. But to me, hack squats were really good because it kind of throws your legs forward and it really makes your quads, forces your quads to work. That's why a lot of guys who lift too heavy with the hacks, they feel their knees. Because why are you feeling your knees? Because that's where the pressure is, right at that knee and the lower quad. So, but I still say the squat is the king of the exercise, of the leg exercises. If you want flaring quads, if you want round, hamstrings, if you want, well-developed glutes, you got to squat, full range motion, wide stance, all the way down below parallel. If that's the only exercise you did for legs, your legs would look great.
John Waldrop, will you retain more muscle during a cut if you put on more body fat, or will you lose more muscle the more body fat you put on?
I don't think body fat has anything really to do with losing or retaining muscle, because at the end of the day, obviously, if you get too fat and you have to diet too hard for too long, you could risk losing muscle. There's a possibility there. So obviously, if you have less fat to lose and you don't have to torture yourself quite as much, you'll be more likely to retain all your muscle. And so that's why we tell people don't get sloppy in the off season, because if you get super sloppy and you got to lose 100 pounds, invariably you're going to have to torture yourself and do a ton of cardio, eat really low carbs for long periods of time, and suffer on lower food. That's not really conducive to maintaining muscle mass. So the more you can eat and still lose body fat, the better you're going to look.
So I wanted to preface this by saying, obviously, if you've been watching this channel for the last month or so, Jimmy the Bull has really become sort of that breakout star of the channel lately. Obviously, building his way through After Hours, but now you see a lot more of him and Lee Priest together on Iron Rage. So again, there are going to be a lot of those who maybe just recently joined us, did not know Jimmy the Bull from previous years. Back, when obviously we had the studio here in New York, you would have Jimmy the Bull weekly in studio with you for Heavy Muscle TV, which was Heavy Muscle TV at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people have this question on their mind: how did you and Jimmy the Bull meet? And for those who don't know, Jimmy the Bull, once upon a time, was a celebrated powerlifter. So obviously, that had a connection in your origins.
He was really never a powerlifter. He was what we call the power bodybuilder. Don Ross named him a power bodybuilder because he would do it with the bodybuilding lifts, but he was like crazy strong. And he had his own little way of doing things using momentum and just lifting ridiculous amounts of weight that if anyone else tried, they would kill themselves. I remember someone just recently sent me an email saying with a YouTube clip of Jimmy doing bicep curls. And he's like, that's not bicep curl. Because Jimmy would do, when he would curl, whether it be one arm or another arm, he would bring the dumbbell up like this. And he would do, and he would do 150s like that. And I said, you know what? It doesn't look like a conventional bicep curl. You try to do it. It's actually harder than a regular bicep curl because he's bringing the dumbbell this high. Normally you bring a dumbbell right up to here, right? He's bringing it up to here. So even though he's using his front delt to do it, it's an insane lift that if anyone else tried, they'd probably tear their bicep. So Jimmy was, I remember going back to World Gym Babylon. This was 1991, I think it was. I had moved back to Long Island from Westchester, which is where I was going to med school. I had taken the year off, and I was training at this gym. And maybe once a week, this guy would come in and he'd bring his own bench with his own bar, and he'd be like lifting and making these loud grunting noises every set. Everyone's looking. I mean, he was outrageously loud, but they let him train there. The owner knew him. So I don't. At some point, we introduced ourselves, and that's how I met him. And I was very intimidating at first because he was a scary guy. He was scary looking. He was very strong, and you think that he's an unapproachable guy, but after talking to him a couple times, he was like really laid back. We started chatting with each other, at the gym, and then before I knew it, he had gotten a contract with Metrex, and I always wanted to work for Metrex, and so. One thing led to another. I don't know how he did it. He said, I get all these boxes of Metrex packets. I said, I love them. I'm using like 6 a day. He's like, you want them? I don't even use them. I said, great. So I used to go over to his house and pick up the boxes of Metrex. He would just give them to me. He never used the shakes. And so I would bring him little gifts and stuff like that because I felt bad. He would never take money from me. And then we just became friends because of that. And so now I wound up working for Metrex, and then we started working booths together, and then we really became tight because we would fly out together to different shows, and that's how I met Jimmy. It was just, we clicked. Sometimes you just meet someone and you hit it off, and I didn't think I was going to hit it off because he looked very unapproachable, but a lot of people told me that about myself, that I was looked unapproachable, I looked intimidating. So it was great. We were like two goofballs together. And I had a great time, and after he stopped competing, I kind of lost track a little bit with him for maybe a year or two. He was going through a divorce. And then, I got him. I said, you got to come on this TV show. We had started the TV show, and then, the rest is history. That was 13 years ago.
Take one more question. This one from Swit 1982. Do you think the amount of pro cards has diluted the level we now see on a pro stage? I don't want to make this a 90s versus today thing, but yeah. He did ask him the questions in the 90s to today when only one pro card became the elite compared to multiple pro cards currently given out to current competitors.
It doesn't water it down because the good guys still rise to the top. So, if you let's say let's talk about the open division. Let's say that there's 50% more pro cards given today. Maybe it's more than that because of the masters and stuff like that. The same top 20% of the pros are still the same top 20%. The guys that got a pro card that say I'm IFBB pro and they have it on their Instagram, it doesn't matter because they're not placing at shows, and a lot of times they're not even doing shows. They just wanted to get the pro card so they can have their coaching business and they could say they're a pro. So it hasn't changed anything. If anything, I think there's more talent around now. Maybe not, at one particular time the same amount as there might have been at one point in the 90s, but I think nowadays there's more pros because there's more good talent, not only in the open division, but we have the 212 division, we have the classic division. I think we're going into a new renaissance of bodybuilding where we're going to see much better guys even than in the 90s. The 90s will always have that stigma of being the golden age of bodybuilding because that's really when everyone came into their own. It's like the 80s was kind of like the dark ages after Arnold kind of like disappeared. And then the 90s, all of a sudden, all the freaks came out of it. The word book. People realized they started learning how to train. They learned about eating more protein being important. I think diet really became important. Mensa was around. Training became super important. Growth hormone came around the early 90s. And that's when the physiques changed. So, of course, all the people that were in that era were the first to really be the big guys. The Dorian Yates, the Ronnie Colemans, the Flex Wheelers, and Cormiers, and Nassers. We have just as big guys today. Matter of fact, a lot of the guys today are bigger than the guys then. I think that, we're seeing new talent come in now that have structures that were similar to the guys in the 90s. I think they're going to be the new guys that people say, oh, those guys are better than the 90s guys. So we're kind of entering a new renaissance era, and I think that is helpful. It's helpful, to have more pros available. It doesn't dilute anything because in order to be a good pro, you have to reach a certain level. What it's doing is it's taking longer for a lot of the guys once they turn pro to be good pros. Whereas back in the day, it took so long to turn pro because they gave so few pro cards that when you did turn pro, you were ready to win pro shows already. It just delayed things a little bit. So, and that's fine because the sport is healthy. Look at the Nationals. They got over 1,000 people in the show. There's money coming in. If there's money coming into the division and there's people competing, the sport is healthy. And I think I like where it is now. I think it's great. I think there's a lot more opportunities. It was very elitist back in the 90s, which for me it worked well because I was a good bodybuilder, but it wasn't a lot of opportunities to make money for guys back then. If you didn't have a contract with Weider or a magazine, you didn't make any money. Nowadays, you can be a coach, okay? You can start your own supplement company. You can have your own YouTube or Instagram, and you can monetize things. The opportunities are huge for bodybuilders nowadays. I think we're in a golden age of being able to make a living from the sport.
That's going to do for this episode of Ask Steve. Again, a reminder right now on the channel, all new episodes of Heavy Muscle Radio, the After Hours podcast, and of course last week's episode of Iron Rage, which we'll be recording again today with Lee Priest, and maybe Jimmy the Bull makes an appearance as well. For Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.